Hello, everyone. This is Phil with Phil's Osophy. Have I got a story for you? Yep, today's segment is going to be another story time segment with me. As the title suggests, the time that I caught the thief who stole my bike, right? I want to talk about it because it sucks getting stuff stolen from you, you know? I'm not going to say it doesn't suck kind of grabbing sometimes at the self-checkout some stuff from a corporate company. But anyways, no, in all honesty and without joking, it sucks. It really does, especially when you're a kid, you know? You get something stolen from you and everyone's telling you it's not your fault. It's not like Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. And you're like, doesn't matter how many times you tell me that, I'm going to feel guilty because it's gone. It's gone. It's worse than a dead pet because, well, maybe not worse, but still, it's gone, you know? So, yeah, so let me tell you about what happened with me recently and how I ran into the person who stole mine/my kid's bike, okay? So let me give you some context. First of all, my best friend John and I, we grew up and were raised in the streets of Chicago. Now I live in the northwest suburbs, but we were really into the whole skate scene, the whole BMX scene. And if you were into that too, you know exactly what I'm talking about in the 90s, you know? Waiting for every month that new CCS skateboard deck catalog, thinking about what trucks and wheels you're going to buy, you know, buying wax and waxing up all the different benches and curbs around the inner city to, you know, find out your new skate spot, you know? So my friend, he was more into BMXing than me, and he got, you know, back then everybody either had a GT or a dyno or a Haro, and he had a GT, and his bike, he kept it from when we were 12 till now, till present day. And so one day, you know, like all through the years, he, you know, gave it a new paint job, got, you know, refurbished it, got rid of the rust. Even one time he broke the body of the bike right where the sprocket is, and because I'm a welder of 10, 12 years, I re-welded it for him. So that bike went through so much crap and so many memories. It was sentimental, you know? And so one day in, I think it was 2020, you know, I had been living at the townhouse community that I'm at now for about 2 years, and my friend calls me. He's like, yo, man, you know, I'm kind of into mountain biking and doing long distance cycling. You know, I'm not really into doing tricks and messing up my joints in my mid 30s. So I was going to throw my GT bike away. I was wondering if you wanted it. And I'm like, hell yeah, my kid could use it. Hell yeah, we want it. Yeah, dude, the one we grew up with, of course. And, you know, to be honest, another reason why was because we couldn't afford a bike for my kid. And let's be honest, in this day and age, kids don't even want a bike. You know, they ride it for a block and then they get distracted and have to look at their phone, or they just walk around on their phone. Bikes aren't as cool as they used to be. From what I see, I don't see as many people on bikes as I used to. Maybe it's because I'm in the suburbs, but bikes don't matter to kids, at least not the ones in my neighborhood. And so for my kid, we got him a bike that we found in a junk pile. You know, like when people put out their water heaters and their washers for the junkers to take, we found a bike and we gave it to him. And sure enough, he just never used it. So I was like, all right, well, maybe he never used it because he didn't have one that's cool like this one that I grew up with. So we gave him that bike, and basically my kid had a really bad week. For those of you out there who are parents, you know what I'm talking about. You know when kids in the summer, they're playing video games 15, 20 hours a day, and they can't fucking concentrate. They're not there. They're like a robot that's short-circuiting. You ask them, hey, are you going to eat lunch? Yeah, I want to go to Disneyland. Like, they don't even know what's going on. They're so messed up. They're playing too many games. And that's what happened to my kid, because in 1 week, he did 3 things. First, he lost his keys, so we had to change all our locks. Then, a few days later, he locked us out, so we had to drill the deadbolt lock. We had to pay somebody like $400 to drill the lock and redo them again. Then he got his bike stolen, of course, what this story is about. I was so aggravatingly pissed. I was like, I never lost my fucking keys. I never locked my family out. I never got my bike stolen, because my dad would have given me a bloody nose. He would have unhinged my jaw. Not that that's good, but I'm just saying that kids don't value things that much these days. So he didn't really realize how much of a tragedy it was to get his bike stolen. And the reason why he did it was because, remember how I said he was playing too many video games? We have a side of our townhouse. There's an area where you're supposed to store your trash cans, and there's like a little fence that guards the cans. That's where everybody locks their bike to the fence. Well, because he's playing too many games, his mind isn't there. He wrapped this stainless steel rope, those stainless steel rope locks, around the fence, around his bike, and then didn't fasten it because he was too afraid to admit to me or his mom that he forgot the combination. So he just left it there. Like he basically left a bike with a lock wide open, spread eagle, for anybody to take. Now, here's the thing. The first thing when you get stuff stolen, it sucks because you go into this, it's not rage because you're not screaming, but then it's not depression. It's like disappointment. And then you go into a paranoia. You're like, oh man, it must have been this guy. It must have been, oh, remember that kid that was talking bad to you? Yeah, it must have been that kid. Oh, it must have been a stranger. And luckily, I kind of had an idea of what happened. And that's why I got to let it go pretty quick, because what happens is when you live in a townhouse community, there's like these 5 houses put their trash on the north corner, and then these 5 houses put their trash on the east corner, so you have your designated trash corner. And unfortunately, our house is where, like 20 feet from our house is where the corner is where all the trash goes. So when the wind blows too far or too fast and too strong, then like we get paper plates and candy wrappers all over our lawn. I don't really care because the association lawnmower guys come and they just shred that thing right to bits, So, but what I started seeing, I was like, what's weird? Like on our patio, we have this like really fat, like abnormally fat cement stoop by our porch. Like there isn't a porch, it's a patio, but our step is abnormally fat. It's a huge concrete block. And I started seeing 40s, like Miller Lite 40s and Cobra all laying around there. And I'm just like, there's no way every single time the wind blows, the 40s end up here. So for some reason, like I said, we live in a very good neighborhood. I rarely have ever seen crime. Definitely nothing like when I used to live in Chicago. So I was like, somebody for some reason likes to drink 40s on our stoop at like 3 in the morning. And I didn't have a Ring camera or anything at the time, so I was like, well, there's no way we're going to find it out. It's gone. And I let it go. Fast forward a month and a half, right? When it got stolen, it was about April. It was like the beginning of summer, And, fast forward to a month and a half or so, I am going on a long trek bike ride. Because that's what I used to do to try and lose weight. I would, like every other day, I would try and hit 20 miles. I would usually hit like 13 or 15. And I would go on this route that I go. That's like, it's regular to me, so I know where to go. So I'm going down this route, and I'm going down this one road where there's a huge golf course on the side. It's a huge golf course. So the sidewalk, it like dips up and down and everything because it's kind of, with the level of the golf course, where all the hilly parts are, then there's like the sand trap, then there's like trees here, then, there's a pond. So it's a weird path to take, but it's also very narrow. So I'm riding down this path and I look 50 yards ahead of me and I see this guy riding a BMX bike. And I'm like, oh, well, I better like go to the side. Like I wasn't even paying attention. I had my headphones in. I'm blasting my uplifting, workout music. And I'm just like, oh, I better go to the side because we're going to run into each other. And the guy throws his bike down and then just collapses on the ground. And I would have thought that like he had a stroke or something, but he had a beer bottle in his hand. So I know he was fucking drunk. So he was kind of going, he's one of those people who had a DUI and he's going for a beer run on a BMX bike, And then I ride by and I'm just riding by. I'm like, I'm like, I glanced, and then I'm like, holy shit. That's my fucking bike. That's my fucking bike. What are the odds that you catch the person who fucking took your bike? What are the goddamn odds? And I knew, like I said, my friend refurbished it, like everything on there was exactly it. The paint job, he spray painted it like it's, some tag in the city. It had the weld on the bottom. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing with my bike? And I had such a rush in me that I wasn't thinking, because every person I tell this to, they're like, dude, you could have gotten fucking shanked. You don't even know who you're dealing with. Because here's the funniest part. I am not exaggerating this. This guy looked exactly like Danny Trejo, except with face tattoos and hand tattoos. He looked like he was a Mexican guy, handlebar mustache, long hair in a ponytail, flannel shirt, and tattoos all over. So he had like 312 written on. I don't know what that means. That's an area code in Chicago, but I don't recognize that as any of the gangs that I grew up around. But anyways, I'm just like, and that was the funniest thing too, is he had like that typical Cheech Mexican accent. So when I do an impression of him, I'm not making fun of Mexicans. That's how he talked. And I was just like, so where'd you get that bike, bro? And he's like, and he gives me the most old man excuse. Because obviously, like I said, Danny Trejo, this guy was like 50 or 60. He's like, oh, I'm not going to say the word. I'm not going to say the word because I'm going to get canceled. He's like, oh, I bought it from some fucking black guy, man, down the street, man. You bought it from some black guy. Where does this black guy live? You want to show me where he lives? He's like, what the fuck you want, man? What the fuck you want? I'm like, no, because that's my fucking bike. He's like, no, it ain't. This is my fucking bike. I bought this from some black guy. I'm just like, really? Well, that's my fucking bike. I know that's my bike. I know the serial number on it. I know the paint on it. I didn't know the serial number. I just lied. But I knew I'm like, I fucking welded it right there. I had this bike. This is my fucking bike, bro. He's like, no, man, how do I know you're not trying to sucker me, bro? I'm like, yeah, you think that's what I do. I just go on mountain bike rides and then I just try and steal people's bikes. I'm like, you fucking stole this bike. And he's like, no, I ain't doing that shit. I'm like, all right, here. How about this? Here's what we'll do. I can easily just get the police involved because I have all the information. They will give me this bike. So is that the path you want to? He's like, no, man, no, don't get the police involved, man. No, that's cool. Here, take your fucking bike. Man, you fucking lying to me. I'm just like, what are you so fucking upset, bro? You're literally bitching to me. He's like, how about you give me $40? I'm like, you want me to give you 40 fucking bucks for the bike that you stole from me? I'm like, bro, you're fucking losing it. And he goes, listen, man, okay, whatever. I got no other way to work. I'm like, okay, all right, listen. You're lucky that I'm not beating the fucking living shit out of you right now. First of all. Second of all, I get it, man. Lockdown just happened. Everyone's getting laid off. They don't have money. But your solution is stealing fucking little kids' bikes? What the fuck? Like, seriously, take a different path, bro. So I take this fucking bike. This guy just lays back down in this ditch. He just fucking lays and drinks himself to death, And I am riding my bike now. Now, here's the thing. Here's another funny thing. I am so shaky, not because I was nervous. I was happy. But I'm shaky because my mountain bike, so I'm 6'1", and when I went to get my bike, I finally got like the bike that I have now is like the bike that I should have gotten my whole life. Like one that's perfectly built for my size. And so my bike is for tall people and for people who are heavier weight. So it's I have to like almost hop on it like it's a horse because it's so tall when I ride it. It's the most comfortable bike I ever ridden, but it's made for my height. So now that it's so fucking hard to keep it stable, it's even harder to keep it stable while I'm holding another bike on my fucking back. And I'm riding all the way home with everyone looking at me like I'm the one who stole a fucking bike. And I couldn't fucking, it was just so ridiculous. And I come home and I'm just like, I told my wife, I'm like, you won't fucking believe what happened. I just caught the guy who stole my kid's bike. And she's like, how did you not get stabbed? You know, like, so anyways, that's my story. But this story gets even funnier because this was around 2020 where I caught that guy, you know, and the funny thing is I just ended up giving him the bike. My friend wanted the bike back. So it was kind of perfect timing because he was like, you know, during lockdown, he got bored. So he's like, I might get back into BMXing. But it was like perfect timing because it was like he gave me the bike, then it got stolen. And then right around the time where he starts getting back into BMXing, I find the bike. So I didn't have to tell him that it got stolen, right? You know? So anyways, perfect timing. But here's what's even more hilarious. This is how this story ends. I ended up having to work at a grocery store because I was laid off, you know, lockdown. And I was in that position where I was like, I'm willing to work anywhere to support my family. You know, I have a huge resume. I've worked in logistics. I've worked as a salesperson. I've worked as a welder. I've worked as a forklift driver. I've worked in renovation. So I could get a job anywhere. And I just got the first job that wasn't locked down, that was hiring, which was this grocery store. So I'm working at this grocery store. And this is like 2 months after I ran into this guy. So, you know, bike got stolen in April. I ran into him around May or June. And then around like August, I'm working the cashier. And he goes in my fucking line, Danny Trejo with his 312 again. And I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing these days? He's like, oh, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you very much. He doesn't even look at me. I'm just like, yeah, are you riding like a Barbie bike now with some training wheels? He's like, Barbie bike? What are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, you don't ride any bikes that you take from people? And he opened his eyes real wide and then he like walked off. It was it couldn't have been more savage and it couldn't have been a better ending to this story. I hope you enjoyed this story. I'm sorry for anybody who has to go through that shit, but man, karma is a bitch, isn't it? At least in humiliation. So, love you guys. Have a good day. Peace be with you.